This is Toyota's latest model of the hybrid they've been selling since 2001. In fact, the Prius was the world's first mass-produced hybrid car. Toyota sold some 15 million Priuses globally. When the Prius first came out, it was a small four-door sedan. Then, around 2003 or so, Toyota redesigned it as a hatchback shape, and it's been that shape ever since. Well, up until just now, Prius marks the arrival of the 5th generation Prius. It's the most fuel-efficient Prius ever. I'm talking up to 57 miles per gallon combined. It's a sportier car with larger wheels and more modern interior. And that's a welcome change considering the previous generation, which started with the 2016 model, which faced some controversy about its looks. Some people saying the last generation was controversial, regrettable, or even hideous. The nose is much lower and the hood rises into a windshield at almost the same angle. So there's uninterrupted visual continuity there, and frankly, it's more sci-fi eye candy than the last generation was. This design makes the Prius more aerodynamic than the previous model. The split rear window, which has been a Prius hallmark for 3 generations, doesn't exist in the new Prius. And the rear door handle is hidden in the roof pillar trim. You also have available lightweight 19-inch aluminum alloy wheels that were specifically designed for the Prius. And you'll find slim LED headlights and a light bar on the rear between the taillights. Prius comes as a hybrid or plug-in hybrid, which is called Prius Prime. Inside the hybrid, you'll find 2-liter inline-4 that's larger than last year's engine. There are also 2 motor generators with higher output ratings, but the lithium-ion battery in the hybrid has a lower capacity of 0.9 kilowatt hours. On-demand all-wheel drive is available as an option on all 3 trim levels, which adds more than 100 pounds to overall weight. This hybrid delivers up to 196 horsepower. Acceleration-wise, you can go 0 to 60 miles an hour in 7.2 seconds for the base model, or 7 seconds with the optional on-demand all-wheel drive. That's around 2.5 seconds faster than the previous generation's 9.8 seconds. Toyota also improved other aspects of the Prius in this new model. For example, you'll see less noise and vibration in the powertrain and tires. Even if you're accelerating really hard, the new Prius sounds smoother than before. Toyota also brought in better brakes for the new Prius. It's firmer and has less of the typical squishiness you often find with regenerative braking systems. Also, the infotainment cluster is a little more mainstream. It's now conveniently located in front of the driver instead of in the center of the dash. In the lower trims, you get an 8-inch touchscreen in the center stack. And in the upper trims, you get a 12.3-inch touchscreen. Both the lower and upper trim touchscreens use the latest Toyota audio multimedia system. It's also more engaging to drive. I'm talking about improved seating position, low center of gravity, added steering feel, and better overall experience behind the wheel compared to previous models. When it comes to safety, Prius comes standard with the latest 3.0 version of Toyota Safety Sense. Pretty much, it's a bundle of advanced driver assist system. I'm talking about features like automatic high beams, adaptive cruise control, automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, road sign detection, and active lane control. On top of that, blind spot monitors with rear cross-traffic alerts also come standard. Here's the interesting thing. Despite the positive press around the new design and changes, believe it or not, Toyota has relatively low expectations for the Prius. It just doesn't expect much sales growth. Toyota U.S. President of Marketing, Lisa Matarazzo, said that Toyota is expecting annual sales of around 35,000 units for the standard Prius. I'm talking about the non-prime version. That's more than in 2021, but just barely. In 2021, Toyota sold almost 34,000 Prius hybrids. And bear in mind, that was during the middle of the global supply chain shortage, which we're still going through. To put that into perspective, back in 2012 and 2013, the Prius saw sales of over 230,000 units. So why the huge gap? Well, the thing is, Toyota has more hybrids and EV options across its lineup today compared to 10 years ago. In other words, consumers have more options to choose from. A few years ago, if you were looking for a fuel-efficient Toyota hybrid, your main choices were the Camry or the Prius. That was it. Today, you can choose a RAV4 hybrid, RAV4 Prime, standard Prius, Prius Prime, hybrid Tundra, or the all-electric BZ4X. Not to mention competitors who are also offering non-gas options. Toyota believes that it ultimately is in the market's hands of what people will buy. But let's talk about price. The base trim is the LE that starts at $27,450. There are 6 different trims, the highest being the limited all-wheel drive, which starts at just under $36,000. There are a few cons you might want to consider. With everything, there's always a trade-off. For example, remember how I mentioned the new and sleek redesign? Yes, it's more attractive, but it comes at a cost. The Problem is, because of this car's lower roof line, you now have a lot less headroom than before. If you're a short person, that might not be a problem. But if you're more on the taller side, well, the roof is so low, it can make it difficult to get in and out of the front seats. For the rear seat, if you're over about 5'10", it'll probably be less comfortable than you expect. There's also a question about cargo space. Again, because of the redesign, Prius has a lot of cargo capacity, around 7 cubic feet of it. So now you're left with just 20.3 cubic feet of storage behind the rear seats. Of course, you can increase cargo space if you fold down the back seats, but then you'll need to sacrifice passenger space, so just be aware of that. Also, if you peek inside, there's good news and bad. The good news is the interior finish and materials haven't gotten any worse from the previous Prius models. But then again, it hasn't gotten any better either. Contrast that with typical redesigns done by other car makers, which usually include a major upgrade or design change to both the exterior and the interior. True, a Prius isn't anywhere near as luxurious as a Lexus, but even with affordable models today, in any new generation, you expect to see improvements in soft touch surfaces and material quality. But in this particular area, sadly, Prius falls behind the competitors. The new Prius also has a problem with rear visibility. Reason is because Toyota retired the horizontally split rear window. Now this feature's been a Toyota Prius trademark for years. You'd hope that visibility would improve because of this change, but actually the single pane remains on the small side and it creates its own type of visibility issues. Toyota's aware of the problem, and that's why the top limited trims come available with the new rear view camera mirror to address this. On top of that, the deep dash, deeply angled windshield, and thick front pillars still make forward visibility more difficult than it should be. Most of you know I like Toyota's brand. Historically, Toyota has valued form over function. And when it comes to the Prius, previous Prius models stood out because they were unlike other aggressive cars on the market. With the Prius, there's a bare minimum you expect. Toyota explained that styling took priority in the redesign. In fact, it used the adjective aggressive a few times to describe the car's new look, and it shows. The car's prettier than before, yes, and it shines in many areas for sure. But for some of the basic things, well, they kind of fell short. A while ago, Toyota issued a summary of its electric vehicle production and sales strategy to its dealerships. Sounds pretty standard and routine, except that, inside the summary, Toyota provided insider insight into its decision to focus more on hybrids rather than full battery electric vehicles. Needless to say, the internal document got leaked to the public over Twitter. Basically, Toyota is prioritizing hybrids over battery electrics because of 3 major barriers to EV adoption. The first barrier has to do with critical mineral supply. Get this, to support battery demand, we need over 300 new mines by 2035. The thing is, U.S. battery manufacturing capacity is taking off right now, but Toyota doesn't believe the supply for raw mineral will be able to keep up. If Toyota's prediction proves true, this means 2 things: shortages and higher costs. If materials costs increase, that means higher manufacturing costs. And Toyota's not the only car manufacturer to recognize this. In fact, this is the very reason why some car makers are, for the first time in history, starting to partner and invest in mining sectors as a strategy to secure their own mineral supplies. This is one of the reasons why Toyota believes the same rare and limited materials can be better used to make more hybrids at affordable prices, as opposed to battery electric cars. Of course, the Inflation Reduction Act changes things. Thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act, a pretty substantial chunk of EVs and PHEVs that used to qualify for a tax credit don't qualify anymore. That's why dealers and car makers have been reporting a lot lower interest in these specific vehicles. Consumer interest in standard hybrids like the all-new Prius is high, and it's continuing to grow. Same with the Sienna hybrid minivan. Some consumers are willing to wait 9 to even 12 months for it. Quick side note though, this doesn't mean that Toyota has closed its doors to EVs completely. Think vehicles like the BZ4X, which is a full battery electric crossover, and the RAV4 Prime, which is a plug-in hybrid. The second barrier to EV adoption, according to Toyota, is the charging infrastructure. Public chargers have already started to gain a reputation for being unreliable. Picture this. You're on a family road trip. The kids are screaming in the back. You have to pull over to charge your EV. And the kids ask, "Are we there yet?" But now you make the unfortunate mistake of pulling up to a slow or worse, a broken EV charger. Probably not the road trip you want to be on. But that's not even the whole problem. Right now, there is no standardization in charging infrastructure here in the States. Ultimately, this means limited access to the public and reduced charging speeds too. Critics state that public charging still has a long way to go and it's far from reliable. Others say that public charging is by far the least satisfying aspect of owning an EV. According to one report, almost 21% of EV drivers who relied relied on public charging stations either experienced charging failures or equipment malfunctions that left them stuck and unable to charge their vehicles. Now you can see why range anxiety has some basis. To be fair, there was some small improvement from the quarter before, but it's still 14.5% worse than data gathered 2 years ago. By the way, when I say equipment malfunctions, I'm not just talking about slow charging. When you pull up to a public charging station, it's not uncommon to see broken screens, plugs, or cables, either due to vandalism, theft, or other causes. And then there's also the matter of trying to pay to charge, but then facing issues with the payment system or network connection failures. And if that's not bad enough, each and every newcomer to the public charging system will at some point face some of these issues, and maybe even accidentally cause some of these issues themselves, which only perpetuates the problem. With EVs taking off already, it's a matter of time. We can only hope that the public charging infrastructure will improve. But to be realistic, it will require time. In Toyota's eyes, why wait for the infrastructure to iron itself out? Why not just take the hybrid route now? That's the more pragmatic route, and I can see the logic behind that. The third major barrier to EV adoption is EV affordability. Let's scratch the cost of installing a home charger. Even then, you're looking at EV prices that are generally more expensive than gas-powered vehicles. Toyota isn't sitting by idle. It's created its own solution. Toyota calls it the 1-6-90 rule. In light of the critical mineral supply shortage and all these other challenges, the answer to the problem isn't to create more EVs. It's rather to create more hybrids. Toyota crunched a lot of numbers. It found out that the same amount of critical minerals that's needed to make one battery electric vehicle can otherwise be used to make 6 plug-in hybrids or 90 standard hybrids, hence the ratio of 1 to 6 to 90. Now you see why Toyota's prioritizing hybrids. But that's not even the craziest part. On top of that, Toyota found out that the overall carbon reduction of 90 hybrids over their lifetime is 37 times that of a single battery electric car. Now, Toyota's hybrid models have been successful so far. And once you take a look at that data that Toyota has gathered, you can see why leadership at Toyota are focusing on standard hybrids. But of course, there's always the naysayers. One critic remarked that some of the statements that came from Toyota when Akio Toyoda was CEO give the impression that Toyota intends for hybrids to stay around forever. Yet the critic believes that hybrids should only be a temporary stopgap solution until EVs are able to take over. Other critics say that if Toyota doesn't start focusing more on EVs with Toyota's new presidents, Koji Sato, at the helm, then Toyota will risk leaving money on the table as EVs become more prominent. But now you tell me, what do you think of Toyota's 1-6-90 rule? And do you think Toyota will win the EV race with its hybrid strategy? Please share by commenting below. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for your support.